All right. Welcome back to College Sports and More with Rashad B in the house. Thank you for tuning in. And as I'm going to go through my top 10 preseason 225 college football ranking. And so I want to do a comparison actually between my ranking and the one and only Mr. Phil Steele ranking. Phil Steele, I point him out because he is one of the premier architects of college football, um, thinkers, writers, sports writers, and his publications from the Phil Steele magazine, which goes back many, many years, amongst others that before the internet and podcasting age and YouTube world, uh, people like Phil Steele's publications was the go-to for all things about college football during the preseason, off-season when we didn't have access. We were just sort of, as fans, I'm saying, to being privy to what we could anticipate for our teams and just the junkies, college football junkies that we are, those of us who would admit that we needed something. Our appetite was very very rich, and so he would give his publication, and then he'll have his top 20 lists and so forth, and it was great. And so I'm giving honor and giving respect to him for that. And I want to do my own comparison compared to his. I'll give you his top 10. I'll give you my top 10 and see how things play itself out. And I will elaborate and explain why my top 10 is what it is and what is my criteria to what that top 10 is as such. And some of you or many of you out there, you have your own top 10. And that's, again, a top 10 ranking, as we all know in college sports, is only an opinion, okay? And how people value who should be ranked, where they're ranked. So I'm throwing in the hat my ranking. Whether you agree with it or not, is up to you. Okay. So, but I'm going to go through it, and I'm pretty good as far as my takes to college football and college sports. So I stand on that with mine. So let's get into it. So I want to go through Phil Steele's. I'll start with him, and then I will just go with his, and then I go with mine, and then just give you what I give you. Okay, so let's start it off here. So Phil Steele, and we'll go from 10 to 1, has at number 10 the University of Miami Hurricanes. Okay? University of Miami Hurricanes as his number 10 team, preseason 2025. I have as my number 10, preseason number 10, Miami Hurricanes. Okay, so matchup good there. Keeping it moving. Mr. Phil Steele has at his number 9 the Clemson Tigers. Okay, the Clemson Tigers, number 9. I have as my number 9 Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay. Phil Steele's number 8 the LSU Tigers. My number 8 the Oregon Ducks. Phil Steele's number 7 the Alabama Crimson Tide. My number 7 LSU Tigers. Phil Steele's number 6 the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. My number 6 the Clemson Tigers. Phil Steele's number 5 Penn State Nittany Lions. My number 5 the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Phil Steele's number 4 the Georgia Bulldogs. My number 4 the Georgia Bulldogs. Phil Steele's number 3 the Oregon Ducks. My number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes. Phil Steele's number 2, Texas Longhorns. My number 2, the Texas Longhorns. Phil Steele's number 1, Ohio State Buckeyes. My number 1, Penn State Nittany Lions. So there you have it. Now, as you can see, we have the same teams in both of our top 10s. However, obviously, not all of them align up in terms of how we each see them ranked. So let me dive into this. Now, the way I have evaluated how my teams are ranked, I looked at 3 primary areas. Okay. So, I don't know all the criteria to how Phil Steele had put his rankings together, but I'm going to give you mine because this is my show. And so you're listening into it. So I'm going to tell you. So my criteria is based upon 3 critical areas. You can include a few more, but I'm just saying as far as from the player's perspective of it. So that is, does the team have either a starting returning quarterback or a quarterback with some significant experience or high potential? Okay. A starting returning quarterback who has already played, so they're a starting quarterback. Or a quarterback with some significant experience. I mean, he wasn't a starter necessarily, but he got significant enough playing time to be a contributor, to be someone who obviously coming to the next season seen as a starter and all that. Third, what is his potential talent? So if he doesn't play, if he's a freshman coming in, if he's a transfer coming in or whatever, and he hadn't played, then what would be his potential? So those 3 things are my criteria starting looking at the quarterback position. Okay. And similarly for each other areas too. So the other 2 areas that I look at, second would be the offensive line. Okay. Offensive line, because obviously if you don't have an offensive line, it don't mean nothing. So you have to have an offensive line. And so that part of that too, same criteria in that, sub criteria. Returning players, significant playing time players, and then of course potential. And that's hard with offensive line. You're not trying to jump in there with potential people wet behind the ears who haven't had no specific time. So obviously that is not going to get you highly ranked on my list. So the first 2 matter the most. Now, the third part of my criteria is defense. So rather than, and obviously that starts with defensive line, that front 7 group, and then obviously the back end group, because again, you can have the most dynamic back end group, but that defensive line ain't getting, they not getting that quarterback and they're not putting no pressure on them, then it don't matter what kind of back end players you have, because eventually players are going to get open because they can't run around trying to guard some people all day long. So that's a wash to that. So, so it's essential what you have up front. Okay. Now, in saying that, I look at again why Penn State. This is why Penn State is number 1 for me, because they have the quarterback, they have the offensive line, and they have a solid defense. In addition to the fact that they have a new defensive coordinator, a guy who just left the defending champs Ohio State to come to Penn State. Okay, so Jim Knowles, if you didn't know who I'm talking about. So within that, it's enough to be said. Hold on a second. Sorry about this. It's queued up, my buddy. It's enough to be said with regard to why it is that I have Penn State ranked in the position that I do have them ranked in, which similarly you will find most other folks' rankings too. They're going to have at least Penn State number 1, number 2, somewhere up in there. Number 3 even. Okay. Phil still has them number 5. I don't know why he has them number 5. And there's a semi-tradition to the fact that when you have a defending champ, that by default, they're almost sort of like the preseason number 1 coming back for some reasons. We've seen that over the number of years now. A lot of those defending champs have returned the next season as the number one team, more times than not in that sense of it. So it's understandable why he has Ohio State number one, even though they don't have a proven quarterback and all that. And there's some questions with the defensive line and they have a new defensive coordinator and an offensive line as well too. Okay. So my number two team, as I was saying, was Texas. So again, quarterback who has played significantly, which was part of my number two ingredient, as I mentioned. Either was if there wasn't a starting quarterback, and he has played, he has started, and I know people kind of poo-poo on the type of playing time that he had, but the talent is there, and he has been in the big ball games that Texas had last year. So and the amount of talent that Texas has amassed is noteworthy. Okay, so Texas gets the number two position in my poll. Now moving down here, again explaining further, we have Ohio State. As I said, I mean an uber talented team. Even though you have players that don't have necessarily the full experience, but many of those players did get some experience. And when you have an all everything wide receiver like Jeremiah Smith, I mean, it's like a no brainer that they're going to be one of the top teams in the country, without a doubt, and so forth. So Ohio State is number three, which is good, a position for them to be in. Okay. Georgia Bulldogs, similarly, good position for them to be in. They have a quasi starting quarterback who played a few games, especially at the back end, which is really important, when you're playing. So again, Gunnar Stockton played at the end of the year. Obviously helped them win the SEC championship. Um, didn't do enough to get them to win the game against Notre Dame in the playoff, but nonetheless, he has experience there. And there's talent all over the place with Georgia. They have key returning offensive linemen. They have a ton of talented receiver group. And the defense of Georgia is the defense of Georgia. So we don't need to do much other than that. They have an outstanding staff and so forth. So Georgia Bulldogs are my number 14 preseason. Excuse me. Number 5 being Notre Dame. Notre Dame has really recruited well. They tapped into the transfer portal. Now, again, they don't have a starting quarterback coming back. They don't have a quarterback who uh, had really the experience, necessarily. Then what is it? They offensive line and their defense primarily. So that's what I'm looking at with them. So they're the first team where, okay, they don't fit the criteria with the quarterback per se, but they do have a lot of good pieces, especially on the defensive side, um, and the talent on offense that they brought in and so forth. So they're number 5 team. They're, again, um, up there. They got running backs. I mean, running backs are part of the best in the country, led by Jeremiah Love. So, and this kid, he's going to be something, and so forth. So, you can't miss with that. He in essence really offsets the deficiency that they have at quarterback. Um, that's how good this running back is. So if because their bell cow is running the ball, and that's what they did last year. So what a lot of is anticipated this year is that they're gonna have a better passing game, which most people expect them to do have. They have upgraded their wide receiver group and with some players, with transfer players, incoming folks, freshmen and so forth, and Great House, the wide receiver who just became a name out there during the playoff run. So they're up there. That's why I have them number 5. Okay, Clemson Tigers. Why are they number 6? Well, because the quarterback and Clemson's recruitment, their retention, um, um, they're just going to be a team to be reckoned with in that ACC, and so I have them up there at number 6, top ACC team, plenty of talent who is as good as any in the country, and so they are number 6. Same thing with LSU. LSU again, I have them ahead of because the quarterback, defensive line, talent, and so forth is the reason why I have LSU as my number 17. Okay. Um, Now, will they live up to the hype? We will see, because they haven't done much of that recently, and so forth. So we'll see how it all plays out. But as it is this preseason, where I'm putting them at is as of my number 17. And then we all know on the schedule that they go up first game against Clemson, the battle of the Tigers, the battle of Death Valleys, folks. So we'll see what that looks like. Okay. These two teams are basically evenly matched. They the same sort of ingredients for both of them fit, returning quarterbacks, talented, receivers, talented defense, all that stuff. So they're mirror images of each other. Okay. Then Oregon. Okay. Now and this is where we have the biggest discrepancy between me and Mr. Phil Steele here, because he has them as his number 3. With all due respect to Mr. Phil Steele, I just couldn't see putting Oregon that high. Okay. I understand. Not not coming back with a start. Now, granted, the quarterback that the Oregon Ducks have, Deontay Moore, has played because he's a transfer from UCLA, but he didn't really do a lot there. That's the reason why he ended up transferring. He got benched, and he didn't do he was thrown in there by well, unfortunately, by trial and error of fire. Getting out there as a freshman, but he came in hyped, 5-star freshman and all this other stuff. So either you got the goods or you don't. And so, and I watched him, and I've seen him play. Like I said, talent and everything. However, on that UCLA team, he didn't do a lot. And so, you would hope that he has grown, he has matured. Certainly, his play would be improved, but until proven, I'm keeping them down. I'm not going to put them that high. And I'm not taking into account of what happened, that butt kicking that they got from Ohio State in that second go round down in the Rose Bowl, which I was at that game. I'm not taking into account that. Um, but I'm just putting Oregon as a safe number 8 for the time being, because I don't see them ahead of the teams that I have ahead of them. Simple as that. So still much respect to them, but I just don't agree that they would be the number 3 team, you know. And unlike this playoff committee, folks, I will do an eyeball test to say, okay, if those two teams play, who would you favor in those games? And I just wouldn't favor Oregon against any of the teams that I have ahead of them. Simple as that. I wouldn't have them ahead of any of those teams that I have ahead of them. So, and then Oregon does play at Penn State in almost the first month of the season, I believe. So we got that game to look forward to. Now, keeping it moving. Alabama, number 9. Phil Steele has them number 7. So let's dive into that one. So Alabama, again, a team here where we have a new quarterback situation going on. Alabama recruits well. They got a machine of a program, plug and play type of operation with talent on top of talent. But some of that talent, unfortunately, hasn't lived up to the hype. Okay, for various reasons, and that's not because they're not talented enough, just because mental things, primarily from last year. There was a lot of mental errors not so much physical stuff, just mental things that they just didn't have it together. And it was a lot of, and there's always things behind the scenes. You transitioning from the GOAT, from Nick Saban to a really good coach and Caleb DeBoer, but uh, but it was a lot going on and a lot of distractions, a lot of pressure, a lot of this, a lot of that over there in Alabama, and it's understandable with all that stuff that was happening why their season kind of went the way it went. And nonetheless, though, um, and because I don't think there was a once Nick Saban got that Alabama machine going, I don't think they was ever preseason ranked lower than 3. So to find themselves at number 9 it might not rub the Alabama fans the right way on my poll, but I'm having them down here because, again, as with Oregon, I don't take them over the teams I have ahead of them. Okay. Even though, and again, I'm looking at the key part of that is a quarterback play. And these teams that I see ahead of them has a defense as good as Alabama's and are very disruptive and so forth. Alabama's main offensive weapon is Ryan Williams, the wideout, all sensation, another great freshman um, player um, uh, from last year. So, but nonetheless, again, Alabama, you can prove yourself through the season, as I've said before. But I had them at number 9, okay, as my number 9 preseason top 10 team. Okay? Nothing to be too worried about, Alabama fans. Don't hate me for saying that you did preseason number 9. Actually, some fans might like that. Okay, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Now number 10, Miami. Again, me and Phil Steele had this one, and the reason why Miami is there because of quarterback Carson Beck. If he can return to what he was in 2023, okay, the year he was a junior, redshirt junior, or redshirt sophomore or junior or something. When he last year was redshirt, he had an extra year, so he was a part of that last group of extra year players. So anyhow, what he did in 2023 that led up into 2024, all the 24 fight that he didn't really live up to. So if he can return the form to that, and being that he got hurt, being able to sit down and now slow things down, process stuff to make better decisions, because that was his big thing. It wasn't the talent; it was just his mishaps in the thinking department as a quarterback. Bad throws, um, just untimely throws, um, just poor decision making, which really was his downfall from last year for the most part. Okay. Because he had some good moments, some spots early in the season. And then, because that first game against Clemson, he was looking pretty good, and then he started hitting a rough spot, especially once they lost that Ole Miss game, which he looked horrible in, and so forth. Well, the whole team looked horrible in that game. Um, didn't even recognize that group. You know? So, um, so with his return, it boosts Miami up. And as much as they had Miami had with the Cam Ward, um, they're different quarterbacks. They're different styles quarterbacks. I'm saying obviously 2 different quarterbacks, but different styles of quarterbacks as well too, um, and so forth. So what is Miami going to look like? So they got a good offensive line. That's their strength probably is their offensive line unit, first and foremost, and then the defense. So we'll see how things turn out. But so I got them as the second best ACC team, and a team that could make some noise. That could make a push towards the playoff, um, and so forth. And with their schedule, they have an opportunity to do it. It's favorable for them. and that is the roundup of my top 10 preseason 2025 college football rankings. And so, with that, let me hear from you folks. What do you think about it? I just turn on the camera and I just go. So I'm not going to give you too much of all the graphics and all the bells and whistles stuff. I'm just talking because I played sports in the game. I come from pedigree, professional athlete, and so forth, and all that. And I'm going to be doing this is a little caveat for folks who watch my program on my time with some of these sports athletes, celebrity folks, and all that kind of stuff. I have a good one coming up where I'm going to do one. That's why this just shows college sports and more. But I'm going to be talking about um, I'm talking about a really great experience meeting Michael Jordan. Okay, and being at that '96 Denver Nuggets Chicago Bulls thriller of a game there in Denver in '96 when Chicago came in with that 19 game win streak. Obviously, they won the national championship. I mean, the NBA championship that year and all that stuff and everything. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of good stuff like that. Give you folks some behind the scenes stuff, okay, of my experiences being around and being in the environment of professional athletes from back in the day, before the internet age, okay, because this is good documental stuff for folks, particularly to help the younger people understand a lot of stuff and how things were going back in the day, okay. So stay tuned for that. Like and share, please, and let me hear from you again. What do you have for your top 10? Do you agree or disagree? It's okay. Just let me hear from you and let's chop it up because at the end of the day, the games are going to play and they're going to take care of themselves. So whatever team you have, that's why I'm a big advocate for your regular season is your playoff play in. Okay. And your team, if they're good enough, they will win the games that necessary to get them in the playoff. Simple as that. Don't come begging and wanting somebody else to put you in there and all that stuff at the end of the year. Your resume is who you are, as the saying goes. All right. All right. With that, I'm going to stop here and check me out on the next one on my channel because I have a different type progress podcast that comes on. So this one is the sports one. My other one is the relationship. So if you like to tune in that, check that one out too. But this one just strictly for the sports stuff. And I have an upcoming show where I'm going to do on the volleyball because volleyball season is starting up very soon. So I got to do that one as well too. So hope you folks that is into the volleyball will check that one out as well. Like I said, I give love to a lot of my favorite college sports. All right, with that, we're gonna stop here and tune in on the next one on Gators and More with Rashad B in the house. Thank you.